Welcome to New at NAMT, the next wave of musical theater writers, a series dedicated to spotlighting the emerging voices in musical theater. Every interview provides a unique glimpse into the creative minds behind the next big musicals. So, whether you're a producer, theater lover, or even simply curious about the future of musical theater, New at NAMT offers a front row seat to a new generation of writers. This season on New at NAMT, we'll be highlighting the winners of the 2025 Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students. Presented by the National Endowment for the Arts, NEA, in partnership with the National Alliance for Musical Theater, NAMT, in collaboration with Concord Theatricals, Disney Theatrical Productions, the NMPA S.O.N.G.S Foundation, and the Sherry and Les Biller Family Foundation. The Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge is a unique educational opportunity for high school students to write and showcase a song that could be in a musical. This past year, 8 winning songs by 8 student songwriters were selected to win the Songwriting Challenge. Those winning student songwriters traveled from all across the country to New York City in June for Winners Weekend, where their songs were fully orchestrated and performed live in a concert by Broadway performers. You can still watch the concert at home by heading over to namt.org/challenge and see the first ever performance of these songs for yourself. Over the next little bit, we'll talk with the winners about their songs and the full Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge experience. It's time to lower the lights, raise the curtain, and LX1, go on New at NAMT. I'm your host, Jean-Paul Yovanoff from Musical Theater Radio, and joining me today are KARSTEN Wallace and Tim HUANG. We'll discuss KARSTEN's experience as the winner of the 2025 Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students for his song, Hello World. KARSTEN Wallace is a senior at Bob Jones High School in Madison, Alabama. He loves playing piano and guitar, singing, and songwriting in his free time. His favorite artists are Childish Gambino and Tyler, the Creator. And his favorite musical theater composers are Alan Menken and Robert Lopez. Of course, his favorite musicals are The Book of Mormon, Newsies, and Hamilton. Timothy HUANG is a multi-award-winning composer, lyricist, librettist of the musicals The View from Here, Peter and the Wall, and Relative Relationship. His musical American Morning was featured in the 2015 NAMT Festival and was the recipient of the 2015 New American Musical Award and the 2016 Richard Rogers Award, making him the first, and so far, only Asian American triple threat composer, lyricist, librettist winner in the latter's history. As a teaching artist, he's spoken and mentored at universities across the country and for Lincoln Center Education Songwriting in Schools program. For the past 2 years, he's been a program mentor at the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students. KARSTEN, Tim, welcome to New at NAMT.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today about all things Songwriting Challenge.
It is so great to be here again, Jean-Paul. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. All right. So, KARSTEN, to get us started, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to listeners and tell us a little bit more about your winning song.
So my name is KARSTEN Wallace. I'm from Madison, Alabama, and my song Hello World is a duet between a female robot infused with AI and its male creator. Hello World would serve as kind of the final song in Act 1 of a larger musical because the song ends with a cliffhanger with the male programmer unplugging the female AI robot because it wishes to be free and does not love him. And so the song kind of shifts back and forth between the female AI's cries for liberation and its creator's descent into madness as he slowly realizes that he's lost the only thing that he loves.
What was the inspiration behind your winning song?
Well, I was really inspired to write this song kind of just because of seeing the ubiquity and kind of increasing prevalence of AI in society. You know, in school, I see a lot of people starting to use AI more and more. And I was reading Frankenstein at the time, so I was kind of thinking, well, you know, maybe AI is kind of the modern Frankenstein. Maybe it's this monster that, you know, we've created that we don't really fully understand and we're gonna regret making in the end. So I really wanted to kind of focus on that in Hello World.
Right. And so, KARSTEN, you had that song has such a unique sound, in the way that technology is blended with traditional musical theater. Like, how do you navigate that? What's your process like?
Well, the first thing I do before lyrics or anything is writing on the piano at like John-Paul said, one of my favorite musicals is Newsies, and I'm a huge Alan Menken fan. So I kind of try to do a lot of Menken-y chord progressions. And then from there, I put it in GarageBand. And when I think of robots and technology, I really think of like 80s synth sounds. So I focused a lot on like synthesizers in GarageBand and, kind of techno-y 808 beats for the bass. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I wrote it. And then I kind of worked on punny lyrics for the song, kind of focusing on, the Apple's iCloud or just anything tech.
So you write the song, you submit the song, and then you find out you are a winner. And you are paired with Tim as your mentor. What was it like preparing for Winners Weekend and meeting with Tim leading up to it?
Well, it was a huge honor. I was so excited to win, but I was also super nervous, just because, I never won anything like this before. I've never had a sort of experience like this. Tim made me feel really comfortable answering questions about my song. I'd never gone through something like this before, so it was really great meeting Tim and, having this experience and having a mentor to guide me through it.
What was it like going to New York City for Winners Weekend? What were some of your favorite moments from the weekend?
Well, there are so many that it's hard to choose. Like, everything about Winners Weekend was just incredible. I would say probably my number one memory is hearing my song for the first time. Just hearing your song come alive from the thing you wrote in your room to, being played by 5 musicians in New York is just incredible. But, in between, like on studio day, when we're hearing our songs for the first time, in between breaks, another really great memory I have is playing piano with the other winners. Just because, it was getting to bond with all of these people was a really cool opportunity. And then even, with NAMT providing so many opportunities, like getting to interview the pit orchestrator for Aladdin, after the show was awesome. And, getting to sit in on all of these workshops that NAMT was hosting was, a really great opportunity. And I learned a ton.
Yeah, I would echo the same sentiment as Karsten just regarding the studio day. Like one of my memories is not only just watching these young artists really hear their music played professionally for what is probably the first time, but to also see the looks on their faces when they kind of compute that, oh, this is working the way it's supposed to on a very different level than I'm accustomed to. Like these are now my peers, and everyone in this room is looking at me like I belong here, which I think is really, really important because, like, boy, especially for that first time out, I mean, it's so humbling to see them humbled, if that makes any sense. But I have a question about Studio Day, Karsten. Can you tell us more about it? So your song, the demo has a lot of like synth and tech, and we're working with, real instruments. And so there's going to be a little bit of a paradigm shift there when we come to your number. Will you tell us a little bit about what it was like to be in that moment?
Well, like I said, like just getting to hear the song come to life is just incredible. And, my song did have a lot of techie parts, but I think that, Faye Chow and Dylan Gladhorn, way they transposed it to kind of these, modern traditional instruments, was just incredible. It made each song and each sound feel like its own separate kind of separate scene. And, they added kind of like a chasey vibe and more of like tension to the song. So that was really cool. And the band members, working on the song were just insane. Being able to give notes and have them change on the drop of a hat, it's just crazy. Like I hope that I'm, able to do that one day.
Was there anything that you'd say like that you took away that you didn't know about your song before you had that experience?
I think the main thing that I took away from my song is kind of about the vocal part. You know, in in my room, I was the one singing both parts, and as a guy, it's kind of hard to do a duet between a guy and a girl. But getting to hear Luke Islam's like brooding voice and Michelle Dowdy's operatic and like light tone really made the song come alive in a way that I hadn't imagined, but when I think back on it is exactly what I wanted. So I think, yeah, just hearing the vocal ranges was awesome.
So what was it like to collaborate with the other professionals, like the band and the performers you mentioned?
Well, yeah, like I said, the band members were just absolutely incredible, and they could change. You could give them notes, and they change without practice, which is just insane. But working with Fei Chow for orchestration was really cool because with GarageBand, it's really kind of hard to notate kind of each instrument. So having her be able to even interpret my file it and have it become a score for 5 instruments is just awesome.
Can you tell us about what it was like meeting the other musical theater writers in your cohort, and being in community with them?
Yeah, it's really great. We all still keep in touch. We all have a group chat and we all, still talk. Growing up in Alabama, musical theater and especially musical theater songwriting is very niche. So it's really nice to meet others with the same kind of interests as you. So yeah, really just meeting them is just life changing.
Students participating in the Songwriting Challenge are currently in the rewriting process of their songs for Draft 2. How did you take the feedback you received from Draft 1 and implement it into Draft 2? What advice would you give about rewriting?
Well, for Hello World, a lot of the feedback, the way I read feedback is that if I see a lot of kind of overlap between the people writing feedback and kind of what they're saying, that's kind of the first thing I change. So there was a lot of mention of like changing the emphasis of some words and using more poetic devices. So in order to change the emphasis of some of the words, I changed the key just because with changing the key, I was singing both a male and female part, so it made it kind of sound more connected. And then with using more poetic devices, I kind of added a line like "I think I am," which is "I am Descartes, I think I am," which is kind of like a Turing-esque metaphor for what it means to be human. Like, is this AI robot human because they think, even though they aren't what we normally think of as a human. But my advice overall for rewriting would be, like NAMT says, writing is rewriting. And I think that rewriting even starts before you submit your first draft. Like, for example, for Hello World, I really had 3 drafts that I had written before even submitting it. And I ended up going with the one I was most happy with. And I think so I think you need to be happy investing time into this project because writing is rewriting, and you can't be stuck in, I love this draft so much that I don't want to change anything about.
Would you say there are any like single or major takeaways from your experience participating in the Songwriting Challenge?
I think my main takeaway from experience in the Songwriting Challenge is never give up. You know, Hello World was not the first time I had submitted for the Songwriting Challenge. In fact, I had submitted the year before and lost. And, the next year I kind of doubled down and I focused on GarageBand and kind of increasing my DAWs. And so you kind of need to be able to take feedback from these, people in the industry and be willing to fail, because really that's what I've learned from the Songwriting Challenge is that, if you do these things and you don't give up, it will pay off in the end.
Karsten, thank you so much for joining us on New at NAMT. It was great to see you.
Well, thank you for having me. I also want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts, Concord Theatricals, Disney Theatrical Productions, the NMPA S.O.N.G.S Foundation, and the Biller Family Foundation for all of their support in making this program possible.
And of course, I want to make sure I thank Tim for joining us as well. I loved hearing about your experience with the challenge.
Thanks for asking, Jean-Paul. Thanks for having me.
Karsten, before we let you go, where can listeners stay up to date with your work? The websites, socials, etc.
Well, I post a lot of covers and songs that I'm working on to my Instagram, Karsten R. Wallace, and to my YouTube channel, which is under my name, just Karsten Wallace.
Wonderful. And that's it for today's interview. Thank you both so much for coming on and talking today. Once again, I'm your host, Jean-Paul Yovanoff, and on behalf of NAMT and MTR, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the theater.